welcome back to Vinyl Friday, where I go through my records in alphabetical order, like a big nerd, and talk about why I love them. So you've done it. A lot of you were asking if I could do more Beatles albums. I said I don't have more Beatles albums, so I launched a sort of unofficial campaign on my Buy Me a Coffee page, and you all bought me a Beatles record in 3 days, so you must really want this. And to be fair, I want this too, so we're all happy. I put up a poll on the community page of this channel, and you also helped me decide which record. It was between Rubber Soul, Revolver, and the White Album, and you all chose Rubber Soul. I haven't actually played this yet. Obviously, I've played the album before, but I've never played this specific record before. Let's get it out of the container, out of the plastic and the cardboard and the paper. Heavyweight, 180 grams vinyl. Parlophone. Oh, it's beautiful. It's all shiny and new. All right, let's put it on. It works! Now, I've gotten all this way in, and I forgot to say thank you. Thank you, everyone who contributed to the purchasing of this album, be it financially or just in your wonderful voting skills. To be fair, all of them would have been the right choice, but I'm very, very excited to be covering Rubber Soul. A thing that I'd like to point out about vinyl in particular, makes vinyl so wonderful, is that this is all you can see on Spotify, and it's like that big. But there are all of these delightful details on the back, like Norwegian wood, parenthetical, this bird has flown, dash, John, parenthetical, with Paul, dash, George on sitar. Or like it says, all titles composed by Lennon McCartney, except Think for Yourself and If I Needed Someone, but it doesn't specify who wrote those ones. Burn George. Another thing that Spotify doesn't have is these delightful photos. So in case you don't have this on vinyl, look at this cool photo of John. This is maybe one of my favorite photos of John now. I'd never seen it before, somehow. Look at this little emo fringe. It's quite something. Back in the plastic. So, I'm gonna do all the songs. I'm just gonna do it, just like Abbey Road. This is one of my favorite albums, so every song, but I don't want to do them all at once this time. I want to be able to draw it out a little bit so that we have Beatles for ages. I'm gonna go in order, but I think every other week. So this is a Beatles week. We're gonna be starting at the beginning, which is a radical notion, I know. And that means that what we're going to be listening to is so the first thing to say about this album is I used to be in a Beatles cover band. I was the Pole, and we were called the Elementary Penguins, and we had one gig on the 29th of February 2020, and then the pandemic happened, and it sort of derailed our rehearsals. Music venues closed, and it was, if you're a musician, you know what happened. It was a disaster. We had one incredible gig, and that was it. That was it for the Elementary Penguins. Anyway, I say this to mention that we spent almost an entire rehearsal trying to figure out how to count this song in, because we couldn't find the downbeat. And if I'm being completely honest, I'm still not entirely sure how to count this in. No, the other thing to mention is that our drummer was right-handed and Ringo is left-handed, so this fill at the beginning sounds really straightforward, but actually apparently it's really difficult if you're right-handed because Ringo plays it backwards. Let's have a listen. Sounds pretty straightforward, but it's not, according to Wally, our drummer. That was the first thing. The other thing I want to say about the start of this song, that's as far as we've gotten, it's a hell of a way to open an album. It's snarly and aggressive. I don't know, I think it signals a change. I really like the so-called bubblegum stuff that comes before this, but this is very much like, we're trying something new. It's heavier, it's funkier. I think there are a couple of ways they achieve this new funkiness. If I remember correctly, they'd been listening to a lot of like Motown and R&B. Actually, this has a very similar feel to My Girl, in that it's got this emphasis on the 2 and 4. So it sort of feels like they were trying to emulate those sorts of sounds that they were absorbing. Editing Nancy, can you please play My Girl and show us how it emphasizes the 2 and the 4?
Yep.
Thank you very much. This one's a little bit faster, but it's got that same 2 and 4 emphasis. I pointed out a similar thing in Blood, Sweat, and Tears. You got no money, yeah. She's it's got this very decisive snare hit. Whereas in earlier songs, they do a lot of one da 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 da, like in "She Loves You." Editing Nancy, can you show them what I mean?
Do I have to do everything around here? Now, I was only partially right before. "She Loves You" does use that rhythm, but it's not so much in the drums, it's in the guitar. One da 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 da. And there's a very similar one in "I Want to Hold Your Hand." It goes one clap 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 clap. Here's one I prepared earlier. I hope that suitably demonstrates what you were asking for.
Thank you. That's the first thing that makes this track quite funky. Here's the next thing that jumps out to me. There's this dual riff that's happening with the guitar and the bass. They're both playing the same thing, but the bass playing it gives it this sort of slightly heavier edge. It's this. So here's what the guitar is doing. And the bass is doing the same thing at the same time. Let's pay a visit to Carlos. Oh, Carlos! Because I was the Pole in Elementary Penguins, this was my part, so I got to play this bit when we played live the one time, and also sing, which was kind of difficult. I wanna be famous, the star of the screen, but you can do something in between. When we played live, I sang the right notes and played the right notes too, most of the time. So that's a pretty cool thing that happens. It's clear that their inspiration is mid to late 50s rock and roll really coming through in their earlier songs. And as we enter this middle phase of the Beatles, the Motown influences start to bleed through a bit more, I think. We've also introduced a piano. Ta-da! Piano plays a part occasionally in other earlier tracks. The piano here has a defined part. It fills in the empty spot in the chorus. So it goes, "Baby, you can drive my car," and then there's a blank space. The piano fills that space, so it sort of has its dedicated mini solo. It's not just a backing instrument, it's a lead instrument in that point. And here it is in the recording. I especially like this riff at the end of the chorus. The tambourine part goes like this. I just realized all of my instruments are really brightly colored. And it amps up at the chorus. The mid-60s really were a time for tambourines. The last little thing I want to mention about this song is that the harmonies are really interesting. I'll break them down on the piano in a second, but just quickly, here's what we're singing at this point. John is the low harmony, Paul is the high harmony, George is in the middle. You can do something in between. You can do something in between. You can do something in between. And then all together they sound like this. You can do something in between. Okay, now let's go over to the piano. We'll have a look at why that shouldn't sound as good as it does. Okay, now the melody of the song has no business being this catchy because it's secretly very ugly. This is what the three of them are singing. This is the chord that's sitting underneath that. And together it sounds like this. It sounds very somber. It's mysterious because that's ugly and what's on the recording is fantastic. I don't understand fully how that works. I can break it down, but it doesn't shed any light on the situation. It sounds bad here, it sounds good on the recording. That's all there is to it. The last thing to mention is that Paul is playing the lead solo here, as far as I can surmise. The solo for this song's a real ripper. In Elementary Penguins, the illustrious Auckland's own, we couldn't find a lead guitarist to play George, but we got something much better in a fantastic violinist named Pearl. This solo sounds great on an overdriven violin. And of course the beep beep and beep beep, yeah, is cool. So that's everything. We've begun the Rubber Soul mini-series. I just wanted to say thank you again to everybody who contributed to this becoming a thing. I'm really excited to cover it. Just thank you, thank you, thank you. Really appreciate all of you. I really love the stories and the corrections that you contribute to the comment section. And I really love how there's like a little community forming here. So thank you for being a part of that. So that's been Final Friday this week. Thanks for hanging out with me, and I'll see you next week. Have a great weekend! 1 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That was closer.